All right, we are live. Hello, friends. Um, I've kind of been experimenting with some audio stuff, so bear with us while I see how I sound. I'm not hearing any of the music. We're also loud. Okay. All right. Switch over here. All right. So I'm not as prepared as I normally am for the 6 o'clock episodes. Normally, by the time 6 o'clock rolls around, I've had time to think about things I want to talk about, things I want to set up on the stream as far as visuals. But we're gonna run with this. It's just me today, obviously. We should have Aaron and Vanessa back for next week's episode. So stuff I had written down that I wanted to talk about between last week and this week. We've got sports back. Baseball is in full swing with pretty good results, I think. We've had a great opening day, the Yankees and Nationals game and the Dodgers Giants game. The Dodgers Giants game was actually pretty close until it wasn't later in the game. When I stopped watching when the Dodgers started opening up. I think they were at 4-1 when I stopped watching, and that game finished 8-1. Yankees game I missed. I was at work, and then right as I got home when the game was still going, it had a rain delay, so I missed out on that. Did see them lose last night. I had to turn that off when the Nationals started exploding. Man, that was rough. But a good team. You know, that team I expect to see at least in the National League championship series with the Dodgers. And I expect to see the Yankees and Astros over in the American League. But short season, anything can happen. If the Yankees lose Garrett Cole, the Dodgers lose someone like Mookie Betts or Cody Bellinger, that definitely changes the outlook of those two teams' seasons. If the Dodgers were to, for whatever reason, lose Walker Buehler, I think that'd be a huge loss. But the news out from Miami is that 4 players tested positive for the coronavirus. And that's just initially. You know, we don't really know how spread that's going to be. You know, did they give it to anyone before the positive test? That could be pretty derailing for a team to lose half your roster to, you know, a 14-day quarantine in a short season like this, because really anyone can win this year. 60 games is nothing. Any team can have a really good 60-game stretch and make the playoffs this year, especially in an expanded format. So even for a team like the Marlins, you know, this is a year you could have made the playoffs easily if a couple things go your way. You know, I don't think this is an uphill battle for any team, except for maybe the Orioles. I don't think the Orioles could get out of their own way, and there's just no talent on that team. Everything that they've got is for the future. But that is a little troubling, you know, considering that things have gone so smoothly. A lot of the big bulk of positive tests happened during the summer camp. So we'll just have to wait and see how this plays out over a season. I definitely think it's interesting that teams now have to prepare in the event that their starting pitcher test positive, that now you have to scramble to get the next guy up, you know. And how do you arrange that? Do you have a guy that's just a long inning relief guy that comes in and pitches 3 innings for you in a spot start like that, or do you move everyone up up a game? It's definitely something that managers have never had to worry about on a consistent basis as they do now. You know, before, okay, guy gets hurt, you got a spot start, you move everyone up one. But now, I mean, this is every single start you have to wonder, is my starter going to be able to pitch this? You know, is he going to test positive when he walks in the stadium? So definitely some unprecedented times we're living in here. Let's get some natural light in here. In other news, basketball is less than a week from starting. We've already got some scrimmage games going on, and there's so much to talk about with the NBA's return. You have the NBA drama around the snitch hotline, guys leaving, crossing over to get food or whatever, walking outside the bubble. You've got guys leaving for personal reasons, and Lou Williams stopping by a strip club for wings, bro. For wings. But from what I've heard and read, he's not going to miss any extended period of time. I think he'll come back and sit out 4 days for quarantine, which if he makes it back now, I think he still plays, the start. Although, a game or two you missing when you've already made the playoffs, I don't think it's a big deal. I want everyone back for the playoffs. I don't care about seeding. Not right now. Not in the bubble. It doesn't matter. Okay. It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters for a team like the Clippers because you're not going to face the Lakers. So any other team you face, what does it really matter? The Clippers are probably the best team right now with their full lineup, better than any team in the West. The Lakers losing Rajon Rondo and Avery Bradley is huge. I don't think it's as big of a deal as some of these other sportscasters are saying that now they're no longer a title contender, because LeBron James has proved that he is one of the best players of all time, even in at his age now. As long as he's been in the season, in the NBA, as long as he's been in the NBA, he's never he's never gonna have a team that just bows out early. He will will this team to the finals. Now whether he wins, that's another story. I think Milwaukee presents trouble for them with no backcourt for the Lakers to speak of. I think the Celtics also provide a problem. I think those guards for the Celtics will torch the Lakers. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I can't wait for the NBA to return. I'm more excited for the NBA to return than baseball, just because I still think even in 60 games, it's still nothing. Those games are not going to matter until playoffs come around, especially with the expanded playoffs. Really, none of this shit matters. So many teams are going to make the playoffs. I know the Yankees are going to make the playoffs. The only team I'm worried about in the East or in the American League is the Astros. Which, how great is it that the Astros had 3 guys get beamed on their opening day? They still won, which you probably do when 3 guys get hit. But they're definitely. I hope that they get their comeuppance this year. I hope that at least George Springer goes up there every single at bat, wondering if this is the one that that takes his head off. Any team caught up in cheating, even if it's Yankees, I hope they get what's coming to them. I've never been a big proponent of hitting guys because they took a little too long in the batter's box admiring a home run, or their home run trot was a little too long. I've never agreed with that. I think the only thing that's going to save baseball is if we allow it to become a spectacle. We want to see guys celebrations. Celebrations in the NFL for a while were really exciting until the No Fun League came in and decided they couldn't use props and made all these rules around celebrations. And celebrations were one of the best parts of football. That's what you wanted to see after the touchdown. Okay, what celebration is he going to do this time? Chad Johnson with his well choreographed touchdown celebrations, and now in baseball, they're talking about unwritten rules and respecting the game. Fuck that. Fuck all that noise. If these guys, and you especially see it in the Latin and African American players, that they'll hit a home run, and you look in these Southern American and island fall winter leagues, and these guys have a blast playing. They hit a home run, and it is electric. seeing their celebrations, and seeing that passion come out. I hate this whole, hit the home run, walk the bases, make no emotion, don't show up the pitcher. Fuck all that. If you don't want to get shown up on a home run, then don't give up a home run. If he fucking hit now, when these pitchers, they strike out and they go screaming off the field, it's a joke. It's a fucking joke. These little whiny bitches want to complain about getting shown up on a home run swing and a home run trot. Then don't give up the home run. It's literally as simple as that. It is. It's as simple as that. Don't give up the home run if you don't want them to celebrate. After that, you give up the home run. It's their time, not yours. So I definitely think that's something that needs a change in baseball for the longevity of it. And I think we will. I think as we get some of these fucking salty-ass 15-year veterans out of here, wasn't it Jonathan Papelbon that said he was going to hit Bryce Harper because he had too much attention around him? And he did. And I thought right then and there that should have been an automatic, 15-game suspension. Premeditated, action like that should have been a long suspension. I did not agree with that. I'm not the biggest Bryce Harper fan now, but I still don't think that situation was right. And until we get those little bitches out of baseball, it's going to be more of the same. Boring-ass baseball nobody wants to watch. On the topic of sports, I do want to go on a little bit of a rant when it comes to our investigations into players and coaches, especially when it comes to the college system. We investigate, and right now, Zion Williamson is being investigated for benefits received while attending Duke University. Meanwhile, no one is policing politicians who are benefiting from being politicians, whether it's, backroom deals with foreign countries or foreign aid, to pharmaceutical companies lining the pockets of politicians around the legalization of marijuana or the legalization of questionable or potentially hazardous medicines. The fact that we are still making marijuana federally illegal and way up there on the drug scale, as far as I think it was Schedule 3, Schedule 2, up there with the likes of heroin. Meanwhile, we have a widespread opioid problem, and a lot of those are prescription. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not just going down to my neighborhood, dealer picking up opioids. Which then means that it's either a problem in bigger cities. We live in a small town here. I guess it's probably not fair to equate our access to drugs to big cities, but the fact that opioids are prescribed and that you have doctors who are getting kickbacks for prescribing this shit. Meanwhile, there's this big fight against the legalization of marijuana in a lot of states and federally. And so we have these players, Zion Williamson being the latest example, being investigated for improper benefits received, but no one's policing politicians at all. No one is policing politicians to make sure that they're not receiving improper benefits from being a politician. And it's driving me crazy. It really is. The hypocrisy. And people actually believe that this is something that needs to happen. We're spending Congress time and money to investigate steroid use in Major League Baseball. We're using Congress time and money, government time and money, FBI time and money to investigate college athletes, college coaches, and for these guys making the college money. How much money do you think Zion Williamson made Duke last year? and he's not entitled to a piece of that. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's son's working for a company over in Ukraine that received foreign aid from the United States. And then when someone's investigating into it, Joe Biden has him fired. Says he will no longer give foreign aid if that employee is not fired. But please, let's continue to investigate Donald Trump and his tax returns. Let's scrutinize his tax returns. Let's investigate him making comments about Joe Biden's son and that whole Ukraine incident. Let's investigate that. Let's not investigate politicians profiting when players aren't profiting, or not players, but when the American people aren't profiting. All these, how did the American people benefit from the foreign aid given to Ukraine? How do the American people benefit from a lot of the foreign aid given to other countries? You're telling me the $40 billion given to Ukraine in foreign aid couldn't have been spent on getting homeless people off the streets? I have a sneaky suspicion $40 billion could get a lot of homeless Americans off the street. I'm not an expert on that, but I gotta imagine I could use $40 to build homes, build places where those people can work and afford to keep those homes, afford to pay for them to receive medical attention, for them to receive psychiatric help if needed, to go to alcohol and drug abuse, to get help for alcoholism and drug abuse. $40 billion, I gotta imagine, can go a long way for the American people that are living in absolute shitty situations. Nancy Pelosi's own city is overran with homelessness. LA overran with homelessness. Sacramento overran with homelessness. And these are three of the most outspoken, in those three areas have three of the most outspoken Democratic leaders in California. Meanwhile, their cities are ravaged with homelessness. But they still believe that foreign aid is what we should be doing. It's the right thing to do. And you're telling me that when we can get every homeless person in the United States off the streets and get them to be productive members of the society, that they could not contribute at that point with everyone in the United States contributing, that we couldn't then help other countries? People want to trash on the United States for its faults, but there's a reason why everyone in the world is trying to get here. Everyone is trying to get to the United States, and it's a testament to where they come from. And I have no problem with trying to fix this situation. But I personally, again, I'm not an expert. I think the answer is getting every American off the street. Getting every American to where they're a contributing member of society. And then at that point, when America's at its strongest, then we go and help these other countries. I think Mexico needs military help. They do. They captured one of El Chapo's top officers. I don't know what else you would say. One of his top officials in his cartel. And they had to turn him loose because the cartel literally waged war with the Mexican government and the police. They are not equipped to fight their problem. And two tons of cocaine came into the United States back in, I believe it was 2018, maybe it was 2019. 2 tons of cocaine, and a big majority of that is coming through the United States through Mexico. And Mexico is a bloodbath right now with these gangs fighting over territory, fighting over the drug trade. And so you look at our neighbor, they need military help. In countries like Africa, the Middle East, they need military help. Syria, Israel, like someone has to step in there, and it's the world's problem. And this is what the United Nations was supposed to do, was supposed to be the neutral party that came in and stopped injustices from happening. And it's not. The United Nations has been a fucking joke since its inception. Now we've got 13-year-old little girls coming to the United Nations and sparking change in the world. We don't give 13-year-olds the time of day because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And even if she was correct, There's no way a 13-year-old formulates those ideas on their own. She's a fucking puppet. Just like a lot of these people are. Biden is a puppet. Obama was a puppet. The only person who's probably not been a puppet lately is Trump. And, you know, I'm not a fan of Trump as a person at all. I think that he's a horrible human being. But he might be the first president in a long time that actually gives a shit about the American people and doesn't have hidden agendas to make himself profit off of it. He's already got his fortune. You know, the American government is being treated like a business, but it's not being ran by business people. It's being ran by fucking idiots. People that are only profiting the elite, only profiting politicians, only profiting themselves, not the American people. Obama had 8 years to create police reform. And now it's left up to Donald Trump, which I don't think anyone would think that he's the person who should be doing that. If Obama had given a shit about police reform, he would have done that during his time. All of these politicians have failed all of us. And to think that electing either Trump or Biden is the answer this November, I think just speaks to the sad state of the United States. People are going to vote for Biden just because they don't want Trump in. And how a 7-year-old white man can come in and help erase hundreds of years of racial inequality is beyond me. He is a part of the problem. All of these politicians that are still politicians from the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they've been a part of the problem this whole fucking time. And that's why I'm a big advocate for terms for all of these politicians. No politician should be in there for more than 8 years. And the problem is we have politicians that have been in there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They are all a part of the problem. Joe Biden is a part of the problem. And until we get people in that are going to fight for all of our rights, all of our favors, it's going to be more of the same. If for some miraculous reason Joe Biden wins this fall, it will be more of the same. We'll be right back here in 20 years. I'll be telling my grandkids about the shit that we all went through and how none of it changed because we all voted for some 7-year-old fucking idiot who is now suffering from dementia, obviously. If he wasn't running for president, we would be telling him that his family that they need to admit him to a home or give him, he needs to have in-home care. That's what we would be doing. But instead, we're portraying Trump as being the second coming of Hitler and don't want to give him any of the credit. Just like no one wanted to give Obama any of the credit for the positives he did. I don't think that all of those, I think that my definition of the positives out of the Obama administration are different than some of the positives y'all might have. But there were positives that came out of the Obama administration, and no one was willing to give him credit from the right side, just like no one on the left is willing to give Trump credit now. And I don't know how we'll ever have unity in this country when you have two political parties that don't agree on anything at all. Shit, even people within those parties don't agree with each other. So there will never be unity in this country until something's done about that. And it starts with us. It starts with the American people. We, the people spoke back in 2016 when they elected Trump. And this year we have the power to make change when we don't vote for either of them. None of us should vote for either of them. There are other people. I think that people like J. Cole, people like Mark Cuban, Greg Popovich would make great leaders in this country. Even though I don't even agree with everything they're saying. I don't even agree with everything that all three of those people believe in. But I still think that they would be amazing political leaders. I think that they're close enough to the middle that they would that the good change would come from any one of those three becoming president. One thing I wanted to talk on, I did listen. I heard a very interesting quote come from the Breakfast Club podcast with Charlemagne the God, and I listened to that podcast, and I definitely think that everyone should go listen to it. I think it was their last episode. I think it's such an important thing for us to listen to. I didn't even agree with everything they said on there. I still found it to be a horribly fascinating, very enlightening podcast to listen to. I think it was Charlemagne the God. They're talking about how the mayor of Chicago just signed a deal with Trump to have federal agents move in to help with the skyrocketing crime. And something they said on the podcast that really hit home with me was that Chicago and these inner cities, they don't need federal agents, they need federal aid. That they need money invested into these communities so that people don't feel like violence and fighting over territory and fighting over drugs is the answer. And I think it goes hand in hand. I think both of those do. I think they need federal aid and federal agents. I think they need federal agents to come in to keep peace, to keep innocent people from being gunned down in the streets or from being robbed or worse. But I do agree. I think that those inner cities, all these inner cities, they need investment. They need the country to invest in them. They need the government to invest into them. The fact that these kids are going to schools where they're not getting the same educations as kids across town in nice neighborhoods are getting, a difference in funding, a difference in safety in those schools, and these kids are going to school where it's not safe. It's not safe. It's not a safe learning environment. No kid needs to go to school. No parent needs to send their kid to school worrying if they're going to get their kid home that day. And there was that story recently of the black single mother who was arrested for mail fraud because she tried getting her child or children into a better school, and she lied about where she lived. And I'm sitting here thinking, we just arrested a single black mother for trying to get her kids into a better school where they would get a better education. And if you're telling me that systemic racism does not exist, that right there, having kids who are unable to go to better schools because of where they live, that is a systemically racist issue because the majority of those kids will be minorities. And people don't like hearing the word systemic racism. And it's because it's an inflammatory word. We spoke about that on the last podcast. People hear that and they immediately shut down. Oh, shit. Here goes another jackass calling everyone racist. I'm not calling everyone racist. I'm saying the problem with racism lies in the system. We have a systemic racism problem. We have a government that does not value minorities, that does not put any effort into getting minorities out of the slums. We're putting no money into inner cities. We're putting no money into police reform, into prison reform. We got guys that go in for petty crimes into prison, and then they come out hardened. And what do you expect when you lock a bunch of dogs into, a kennel? A few are going to come out hardened. They're not going to be the same dog. And we're treating humans like animals. Meanwhile, the real animals we're not treating like animals. The pedophiles, the rapists, the murderers, those are the real animals. And nobody wants to do what's right when it comes to that. Those are broken people. And when a dog draws blood on a human, we put them down. When a human draws blood on a human, we don't do anything to them. We lock them away, let them get a little bit harder, and then we let them back out into the world. I was watching Behind Bars, and they were literally prepping this guy for release. They were like, okay, this guy's weeks away from being released, and they were still having to cuff him, with their safety in mind. They got this guy backing up, making sure they cuff him right so he doesn't kill them. And he was weeks away from being released into the world. So you tell me where the problem lies. You tell me there's not a systemic racist problem. You tell me how that's not. You tell me how inner cities and their struggles are not a part of a system problem. And we all have the power to do something about it. We do. The answer is electing officials that have our interest in mind, that have our best interest in mind, not their own. And until the liberal left and the radical right, until we find a way to not let them dictate the outcome of politics, it's going to be more of the same. We'll be back here in 30 years. Guarantee it. And that's a point I wanted to touch on is, in the Black Lives Matter movement, you have people there that have no interest in racial equality. You have people that are destroying and looting their neighborhoods. And until the Black Lives Matter movement, tells their movement there's no place here for that, and until the people, the average conservative damns racism and damns the people continuing to fuel racial inequality and problems in America, we all, it's up to us in the middle to eliminate that from these movements. If you believe in racial equality, there can be no room in your movement for people destroying or becoming violent. We're seeing innocent people being assaulted on both sides. You have innocent black people that, like, there was that scary story a couple weeks back of a guy who evaded a lynching. And until people on the right say, hey, there's no room for that here, and damn that behavior, and until people on the left say, hey, there's no room in this Black Lives Matter movement for violence or for destruction, we're not going to get anywhere, because those people are diluting both sides of the argument. That's the only things people can focus on. The only thing the right can focus on is the fact that there's people out there rioting and looting. People on the left can't get over the fact that there's people in their movement destroying, looting, becoming violent. And that's not the answer. It's not. In sports news, Yankees just scored, up 3-2 against the Washingtons in Washington. Thanks to a Gleyber Torres single, Aaron Hicks scores. And that's a lot of what I had to talk about, main points. I would like to talk a little bit about the mask drama. I'm not a fan of the mask. I don't like how it feels, but if that's my part, if that's what I can do, then I'm going to do it. I'll do my part, which is to wear the mask. Do I think they need to be worn out in public when social distancing can occur? No, I don't think it's needed. I think if you were outside and you can maintain 6 feet from people, I don't think you need a mask. And the fact that you have this dumb bitch who maced a couple eating at a dog park without masks on, and people just let her walk away. They let this dumb bitch walk away after she maced them for not wearing masks. And then on the other side, you have people who don't believe in the mask that are making these big scenes in grocery stores, knowing full well when they go in there that they're going to be confronted and that they're going to make a scene. It's just ridiculous that we're all up in everyone's business. We're if you're in a store and you see someone not wearing a mask, it's not your job to confront them. If the store has a policy against it, it's up to them to do something about it. And even then, Walmart, stop letting your floor level associates confront people about wearing masks. Do not put them at the front door to turn people away. That is a manager's job. I worked at Walmart. It's been now 10 years since I've worked at Walmart. And we had a really bad problem with managers not wanting to come out and deal with irate customers, or when they did come out, they would give the customer their way, totally undermining the floor level associate. And so there's a real problem with managers not wanting to come out and deal with what they're paid to do, which is irate customers, any kind of issue. And, we need to start holding these companies accountable. Why is it that Walmart can get away with, absolutely gutting their payroll, having associates cover entire sections of the store by themselves in a store that attracts lower income people who apparently have no problem with causing scenes or causing trouble? I'm telling you, I shop at Albertsons, shop at any other store at Walmart. You don't see the level of altercations that occur at Walmart. It does come down to the people that are going there. And so you've got people that are now having to deal with going to work during the middle of a pandemic, making minimum wage, doing the job of 3 or 4 people by themselves. And so remember that when you're going into Walmart and you're turned away because you don't have a mask, don't bitch out the associate. Tell them to get a manager. You want to bitch at someone, you tell them to get a manager, because that's the manager's job. That's what the manager's paid for, is to deal with you bitching about not wanting to wear a fucking mask, or you not liking the fact that someone came in not wearing a mask. It's not your job. Ask for a manager. Don't confront that person. Ask for a manager. Say, hey, that person in here without a mask, you gonna do something about it? That's what they're paid to do. That's what the manager is paid to do, is deal with that bullshit. Not your $10, $11 an hour floor associate who's just trying not to catch the fucking virus. They're now essential workers who are risking their lives by showing up to work. So remember that next time you have a fucking gripe going to the store about wearing a mask or someone not wearing a mask. And I swear to God, if any of you dumb motherfuckers try to mace me for not wearing a mask out in public, we're gonna tussle. No doubt about it. Don't mace me for not wearing a mask. I ain't gonna mace you for wearing a mask. Would love to hear some people. I think we're gonna put it on the Facebook page. Some topics people would like to hear about. We are gonna do a giveaway at 100 followers on Twitch for a fitted cap, or any cap, any hat from Lids. Shout out to Lids if you want to sponsor me. That's where I get all my hats from. I think I'm the proud owner of like 10 different Yankees hats now. So that's coming up at 100 followers on Twitch, probably at like 100 subscribers on YouTube, and maybe a certain amount of followers on Twitch. So we'll be giving away a lot of hats. So stay tuned. Please, if you have things you'd like for us to talk about, we had a viewer last week who brought up our thoughts on the 1985 NBA draft, the Patrick Ewing draft. And it was near the end of the podcast, so we couldn't really talk a lot about it. But if there is things you want us to talk about, please post it on the stream. Post it on Facebook, the DNA Podcast, Twitch, DNA Dave 2 on Twitter, DNA Dave 2. You can tweet us stuff you want us to talk about. Tell your friends, please, if you can share us on any social media you have. More followers we get, more hats we're going to be giving away. So, we're probably going to start ramping these up now that sports are returning. Baseball's on just about every day now. Basketball coming up next week. So really exciting time getting back in the swing of sports. Definitely a nice distraction from the pandemic, but I hope that sports continue to further the conversation of fixing racial inequality, because it is a real issue. Racial inequality is an issue, but we need to remember that all of us here on the ground level, we are all in this together. There are some really shitty individuals out there that feel that minorities are below them, and there's no room for those people in this country. Those type of people need to be held accountable until they either change their behavior or leave. If they want to go live in areas that are predominantly white with no minorities, because that's where they feel more comfortable, then send them there. But there's no room in this country that was founded on liberty and freedom for all, that now all of a sudden we want to pick and choose who that freedom is for, who that liberty is for. And we can't rest until justice is served for racial inequality. The killers of Breonna Taylor do need to be brought to light. The killers of George Floyd do need to be brought to light. So remember, everyone, we're all in this together.